Welcome back to Mr. Magazine, the place where celebrity stories are not merely reported but excavated, narrated, and given the reverence of a human chronicle. Before we unfold tonight's long and tender account, do the simple things that help independent journalism live: subscribe, press like, turn on notifications, and if you want to stand even closer, hit the join button to support our ongoing investigations and exclusive narratives. Now, settle in. This is a story of memory, rumor, forgiveness, and a fragile reconciliation that appears to have been written across continents. For an extended period, the romance between Gökberk Demirci and Özge Yağız read like a contemporary myth in the tabloids, two actors whose on-screen magnetism bled into off-screen speculation, then into a widely publicized separation that seemed to close a chapter. That exit became a long-running headline. Family tensions, whispered betrayals, and relentless gossip that did not merely color the periphery of their lives but threatened to become the focus of them. Yet from the debris of public scrutiny there are occasionally, as in this case, shards that reflect a different truth, a continuity of feeling that neither time nor slander could fully extinguish. According to multiple persons privy to the couple's private circle, the seeds of a renewal were sown in silence and patient observation, a process that gathered momentum in recent months. Those close to Gökberk describe a man who refused resignation. His private utterances to friends and confidants betrayed a stubborn conviction that the connection with Özge had been mischaracterized by past storms. He is reported to have said, in moments of unfettered candor, that the ledger of his heart contained entries that were not erased by distance, a sentiment that translated into gestures, small but persistent, directed toward reconciliation. Notably, friends of Özge say that her public reticence masked an interior life that had never truly severed its attachment. Where she once retreated into solitude to avoid the noise of rumor, now there were signs, faint yet meaningful, that the past was being reconsidered, not as a wound to be palmed but as a contour of identity to be understood. A monochrome photograph posted quietly to her feed, captioned in few words and heavy with implication, is the sort of minor signal that, in the economy of celebrity discourse, functions like a deliberate punctuation, suggestive, private in tone, and irresistible to a world that prefers narratives to nuances. Halfway through this account, allow me to pause and ask the Mr. Magazine audience a simple question: do you believe that relationships that end publicly can later be resumed privately without spectacle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective fuels our coverage. And if you value this sort of careful storytelling, please subscribe and join. It helps us continue to bring you layered reports rather than mere flashes. Reconciliation, when it arrives, rarely obeys a tidy script. Sources tell us that both Gökberk and Özge engaged in a period of reflective reassessment. Gökberk, by acknowledging the pain caused by old insinuations and by expressing willingness to bear responsibility for missteps; Özge, by deciding whether past affronts were worth lodging against the present possibility of tenderness. Central among the obstacles in their history was the recurring invocation of Gökberk's prior marriage in the public discourse. An echo that amplified misunderstandings and fostered resentment. But as those who watched from the periphery recount, the couple's more recent interactions exhibited the hallmark of serious adults: patience, deliberate listening, and a mutual desire to contain their story from public commodification. It was in this climate of guarded rapprochement that Paris emerged. The city, so often summoned in romantic myth, which in this instance appears to have offered privacy and a space for conversation beyond the intrusive gaze of cameras. Friends close to both actors insist the meeting there was not accidental, an agreed-upon attempt to close a distance that had widened under pressure. Witnesses who happened upon them later recall a simple, domestic tableau. A quiet dinner alongside the Seine, a modest bouquet, the kind of gestures that suggest intention rather than spectacle. The image recounted by those on the scene was not cinematic ostentation but the gentle choreography of two people trying again, a white rose offered, tears released, hands held with a tremor that signaled both vulnerability and courage. Gökberk's alleged lines during that encounter, phrases reclaimed from the vocabulary of many reconciliations, were reported to be frank and unvarnished, admissions of error, declarations of continuing affection, and a plea for a clean slate crafted through concrete actions rather than promises alone. Özge's response, as relayed by close observers, was not an immediate capitulation but an equally measured recognition that some wounds can be addressed when the parties involved are willing to bear discomfort together and to reconstruct the trust that public scrutiny once frayed. This is an opportune moment for another Mr. Magazine reminder. If you find value in our quietly sourced, narrative-driven reporting, hit like, comment, and become a member to support independent storytelling. We want to hear your verdict. Should celebrities ever be obliged to make their reconciliations public, or is privacy a right that deserves protection no matter how famous the individuals are? Beyond the image of reconciliation lies the pragmatic dimension many pundits overlook. Can two careers, shaped by prior controversies and the weight of public expectation, be aligned in a manner that protects both personal life and professional viability? Industry columns speculate that the couple's renewed closeness may be tied to collaborative plans, a shared project that would allow them to harness their undeniable chemistry without surrendering agency over their narrative. Whether this is a strategic convergence or a natural outgrowth of their emotional rapprochement remains to be seen, but sources intimate that work conversations have woven themselves into personal ones, thereby allowing each to move forward with a sense of mutual purpose. Notably, reactions among fans and commentators have been predictably varied. For many, the possibility of a restored union feels redemptive. A story of endurance that affirms the idea that love, when nurtured by accountability and humility, can survive public injury. For others, the memory of past accusations and the specter of family tensions counsel caution. Reconciliation is admirable but must be accompanied by transparency, therapy, and sustained behavior change to avoid repeating the cycles that once led to rupture. Whatever the future holds, one truth emerges from those who observe the couple most closely. Both actors appear determined to protect whatever fragile re-establishment they are attempting. They have asked, vocally or tacitly, that the public exercise restraint. Friends report that Özge has requested the press to respect her solitude, and that Gökberk has declined gratuitous publicity about their private meetings. Such discretion, while often met with suspicion, may in fact be the best guarantor of a measured, healthier rebuilding process. As the narrative unfolds in real time, remember that public conjecture tends to prefer binaries. It wants to label this as either a fairy tale reconciliation or a cynical PR ploy. But the more complex and likely truth is messy. Two adults, shaped by fame, error, and yearning, attempting to reconcile in ways that may sometimes disappoint an audience that wants resolution on command. In the months ahead, observers should look for signs that go beyond social media teases. Consistent, private accountability, concrete efforts to repair familial ruptures, and, if projects are announced, contracts and commitments that demonstrate a long-view approach rather than opportunistic timing. Before we close this chapter, we turn again to you, faithful Mr. Magazine readers and viewers. Do you believe the Paris meeting marks a permanent turning point, or is it merely an interlude in a longer, more complicated saga? Tell us in the comments, we read each one. Hit like if you want follow-up pieces that track their next public appearances, subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you cherish this brand of thorough, humanized celebrity reporting, consider becoming a member to help underwrite future investigations. In the final measure, the story of Gökberk Demirci and Özge Yağız as it currently stands is less about sensational closure than about the slow work of mutual repair, an effort that requires courage in private, not applause in public. Whether their reconciliation endures will depend less on the heat of trending hashtags and more on the slow accumulation of choices that signal reliability, respect, and an enduring willingness to evolve together. Thank you for walking with us through this sensitive and carefully sourced report. From all of us at Mr. Magazine, we invite you to remain patient, compassionate, and critical as this story progresses. Do not forget to subscribe, press like, leave your thoughts below, and, if you want to support independent journalism that respects nuance over spectacle, please join our channel. Until our next story, stay curious, stay kind, and stay with Mr. Magazine.